Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we are shining a very bright spotlight on one of the most stubborn obstacles to global development, energy poverty.
Mm,
And when you hear that term, most people probably picture a village that's completely dark.
yeah.
But the reality is, it's actually a lot more complex than that.
It's a critical challenge, and you're right. It's not just about a simple on-off switch. Our sources are really clear on this. True access to modern energy, it's the foundation for any kind of large-scale development.
And the scale is just mind-boggling.
It is. I mean, get this. As of the early 2020s, you had over 570 million people just in Sub-Saharan Africa living without electricity. But like you said, it's not just the absence of a grid. We have to talk about the quality and the reliability of that access.
And that reliability problem is perfectly illustrated in a place like Pakistan.
Yeah.
If you just look at the official numbers, you think, great, 95 to 98% of homes are electrified.
Looks good on paper.
Exactly. But it's hiding this huge dysfunction. A massive survey found that 4 out of 5 of those electrified homes, they only get a few hours of power a day. It's completely intermittent.
Imagine trying to run a business or, have your kids study around that kind of failure.
Right. And that failure has a real cost. We're talking an estimated $2.3 billion spent every single year by citizens on just stopgap measures.
That's an incredible number. And that's money that's going to candles, polluting kerosene, loud diesel generators. It's capital that could be going to food or education or savings. It's just gone.
Precisely. And so today we're deep diving into a company that saw this problem and decided to tackle it head on. It's called Bboxx, founded back in 2010.
And they saw two big trends happening at once. The cost of solar technology was plummeting and mobile money was just exploding across Africa. Their mission was to use those trends to transform lives through affordable, clean, decentralized energy.
So in this deep dive, we're going to unpack their innovative blueprint. We'll look at the pay-as-you-go model, their tech platform Pulse, and how they scaled from a small startup in Rwanda into this massive force for social and economic change.
We'll also get into the hurdles they faced and, of course, the huge, measurable impact they've delivered.
Okay, so let's start by painting a picture of what things were like before Bboxx came along. For communities off the grid, they were stuck paying what's called the poverty premium for energy. What did that actually look like day to day?
In a word, kerosene. That was the main source of light. And we talk about the expense, but honestly, the health costs are just devastating. You have these noxious fumes that are directly linked to severe respiratory illness.
And the fire risk.
And the constant fire risk from an open flame. For those who could afford a small step up, you had noisy, expensive diesel generators. It was a really bad set of options.
And these weren't just minor inconveniences. This kind of infrastructural exclusion, it cascades into everything.
Absolutely. Think about a local health clinic. They can't reliably refrigerate essential vaccines. They can't run critical medical equipment at night. It's a huge barrier to basic health care.
And for education.
Well, near the equator, the sun sets around 6 or 7 p.m. all year round. So if you're a student, your ability to study is just cut short. And for any small business, your hours are limited by daylight. It traps people in this cycle of poverty.
So the traditional options were terrible. But the thing is, people were already spending a significant amount of money on them, on the kerosene, the candles, maybe paying a local shop to charge their phone.
Exactly. And that's where the market opportunity opened up. By the late 2000s, solar panels and LED lights were getting dramatically cheaper to produce.
But not cheap enough to buy outright.
Not for the end customer, no. So even a basic solar kit was still too expensive up front. Bboxx started with this very simple idea of what they called batteries in boxes. Just a small solar home system, maybe 20 to 50 watts. Enough for some lights, charging a phone, running a small radio.
But again, that upfront cost, maybe a couple $100, is the deal breaker for a family living on a few dollars a day without any access to a bank or credit. So how do you bridge that gap?
And that financial barrier, that was the real moment of innovation. Bboxx realized selling hardware wasn't the answer. They had to invent a financial product that matched how their customers actually lived and earned.
Which led them to the pay-as-you-go model, PAYG.
Exactly.
PAYG.
Okay, let's get into the mechanics of this because it feels like this is the absolute core of their success.
It is. So instead of buying the system, the customer pays in really small, regular installments, say $5 to $15 a month, and they do it using mobile money like M-Pesa, which is everywhere.
But how did they land on that price? I mean, how did they know that $10 a month was the magic number?
Now that is the strategic genius. They did the research. They mapped out what families were already spending on that basket of bad energy.
They were proving that these families were already paying, say, $8 for kerosene, $2 for candles, another $5 to get their phone charged. That's $15 a month for terrible, dangerous service.
So they priced their new, clean, reliable solar service to be equal to or even less than what people were already paying.
Precisely. They weren't asking the customer to find new money in their budget. They were just asking them to reallocate what they were already spending to a product that was infinitely better.
That's brilliant. It's not a luxury item. It's a utility upgrade that immediately saves you money.
That parity was the key to adoption. It meant Bboxx wasn't just selling a product. They were selling power as a service, and that's what allowed them to scale so quickly in these low-income communities.
Okay, but managing hundreds of thousands of these tiny contracts and remote devices, that seems like a logistical nightmare.
It would be impossible without technology, and that's where their digital engine comes in. It's a proprietary IoT-enabled platform called Bboxx Pulse.
Pulse? So this is the central nervous system of a whole operation.
That's a perfect way to put it, yeah. It uses sensors inside every single solar home system to send data back to headquarters. And the scale of this is wild. Our sources say Pulse collects over 1 billion data points every single day.
1 billion. Wow. So what does it do with all that data?
It performs 3 vital functions. The first, and maybe the most important for the business model, is credit control. It tracks every payment in real time, and if a customer misses a payment,
It can shut the system down remotely.
It can remotely disable the unit until a payment is made.
That feels like a really hard lever to pull, especially for people with fluctuating incomes.
Yeah.
How do they manage that without, alienating their entire customer base?
It's a delicate balance for sure, but that remote disconnect is the enforcement mechanism that makes the whole model viable for investors. Without it, the default rates would be too high, and they could never raise the capital to buy the solar systems in the first place.
Okay, so it's a necessary tool.
It is, but they balance it with the second key function, which is proactive maintenance.
Proactive. How does that work?
Well, Pulse is constantly monitoring the health of the battery, the panel's output, everything. So if it predicts a battery is starting to fail, often days or weeks before the customer would even notice a problem, it automatically creates a service ticket and dispatches a technician.
So they fix the problem before it even is a problem.
Exactly, which massively improves reliability and builds trust. The service is often better than the official grid people were used to.
And the third function?
Logistics automation. This is where you see the company evolving. For example, they now offer PAYG cooking gas. The LPG cylinder has a sensor on it, and when the gas gets low, Pulse automatically triggers a delivery for a refill. The customer never has to worry about running out.
So Pulse is what turns them from just a hardware company into this efficient, data-driven, distributed utility.
That's it. It's the brain that integrates the financing, the device performance, and all the field operations.
So once they had that model perfected, the focus became scale, scale, scale.
Ruthlessly. They started in pilot markets like Rwanda, which was great because the government had really ambitious electrification targets, and Kenya, which was, of course, the home of mobile money.
And success there helped them attract some serious capital. I saw a $50 million Series D round led by Mitsubishi. That's when things really took off.
That's right. And they got ambitious with their scaling strategy. It wasn't just organic growth. They used a mix of direct operations, franchising in places like Nigeria, and most importantly, some major acquisitions.
The PAYG Africa deal in 2022. That one seemed like a game changer.
Oh, it was a massive shortcut. It instantly gave them an established footprint and about 1 million customers across West Africa in Ghana, Mali, Senegal. Just like that, they were a continental leader.
And they had to be super adaptable. I mean, the way they entered Pakistan is a great example. The problem there wasn't the lack of a grid, it was the chronic unreliability, the load shedding.
Right, planned blackouts. So they didn't go in selling those small 20-watt lighting kits. That wouldn't solve the core problem. Instead, they offered larger 100-watt systems designed specifically to be backup power for fans and lights during those outages. They adapted the product to the local need.
And that adaptability points to a bigger shift in their strategy. They realized that once they had that customer relationship for energy, they could offer more. This is the super platform idea.
Yeah, exactly. They realized they weren't just a utility. They had built a last-mile delivery network and, in a way, a credit rating agency for the unbanked. So they started to leverage that.
First, with clean cooking.
Right. PAYG LPG stoves to fight the horrible effects of indoor air pollution from charcoal and wood fires.
And then they moved from just providing light to providing income.
Yeah, offering larger systems that could power a TV or refrigerator, and then critically, selling what they call income-generating assets. Things like solar water pumps for farmers, or even financing electric scooters for transport entrepreneurs.
And the final layer on that platform is digital and financial inclusion.
The logical next step. They have years of reliable payment data on their customers. That's a credit score. So they started offering smartphones and internet connectivity, and then using that payment history as a reference for microloans or insurance. Energy was the gateway.
But operating in these frontier markets must be incredibly difficult. Let's talk about the hurdles. How did they actually manage to pull this off?
Well, the biggest challenge, as we said, was always affordability. PAYG was the main solution, but to reach the absolute poorest customers, they needed more. So they started leveraging something called results-based financing, or RBF.
Okay, break that down. What is RBF in simple terms?
It's basically payment for outcomes. A government or a big funder like the World Bank agrees to pay Bboxx a subsidy, but only after a solar system is installed and verifiably working.
So it de-risks the investment for the funder.
Totally. And that subsidy allows Bboxx to lower the monthly price for the end customer, making it affordable for households that couldn't even manage the standard PAYG rate.
Okay, that makes sense. The second big challenge must be credit risk and default. People's incomes are irregular. How do you manage that? We talked about the remote disconnect, but they found a softer solution too.
They did, and this is maybe one of the most fascinating insights from the whole thing. They ran the numbers and found that when women were more involved in the user training and managed the household payments, the default rate dropped by a significant 9%.
9%. That's a huge financial lever.
Yeah.
So gender inclusion isn't just a nice to have, it's a core part of their risk management strategy.
It's a measurable financial mechanism. And they discovered this over time. It fundamentally changed how they approached their field staff and customer education. They found that employing women in technical roles also had a really positive correlation with repayment success.
Amazing. And the third challenge, just the chaos of policy and logistics across a dozen different countries.
For that, they engaged directly with governments. In places like Rwanda and Togo, they aligned their business goals with the national electrification targets. That helped smooth out regulatory issues and gave them a stable environment to operate in.
Okay, so let's get to the payoff. What has all of this actually delivered in terms of real-world impact?
The numbers are pretty staggering. Let's start with the economic uplift. Their data shows customers have collectively generated an estimated $184 million in additional income.
Wow.
And around 68,000 people have started new entrepreneurial activities because they finally have reliable power.
That's a massive dent in poverty. And then there are the health and education benefits. Getting rid of kerosene alone is a huge public health victory.
It's huge. And for students, having those extra few hours of light to study every night, the long-term impact on educational attainment is profound.
And we can't forget the impact on gender inclusion.
Absolutely not. Clean cooking and lighting free up so much time for women and girls who were previously stuck gathering firewood. That time can now go into education or earning an income. It's transformative.
And then there's the environmental contribution, which is also pretty clever.
Very clever. By replacing all that kerosene and diesel, their projects are set to offset over 20 million tons of co-euro over their lifetime.
But that's not just a nice number on a report. They monetize it.
Exactly. Their carbon credit program has achieved gold standard certification, and it's projected to generate up to $100 million in revenue by 2030. And that money gets plowed right back into the business to scale the impact even further. It's a virtuous cycle.
So when you pull it all together, the Bboxx story is really a blueprint. It shows how you can use technology like IoT and mobile money to turn a massive social problem into a viable, scalable business.
It does. It's about treating the underserved not as charity cases, but as dignified, creditworthy customers who will happily pay for a quality service that improves their lives.
So the final thought for you to take away is this. Bboxx started with energy, but it evolved into a super platform for connectivity, cooking, and finance.
So the question to really mull over is this. If energy access is the gateway, what's the next layer of essential services that gets built on top of that platform to truly solve global poverty? And maybe more provocatively, given how effective these decentralized are, how much longer will the old centralized grid even be relevant in these rapidly developing markets?
Something to think about until our next deep dive. Thanks for listening.
Thank you for listening to Mission Possible. Innovating for the world's most marginalized. This podcast is built on the outstanding work of our students, whose curiosity and commitment drive much of the research and storytelling you hear. Each episode is grounded in academic research and shaped through close collaboration with our partners. To learn more about the research and partnerships behind this podcast, feel free to contact us. Thank you for joining.